To grow as a therapist, you have to be willing to challenge yourself. One way to do this is to ask clients for feedback on how therapy is going. If this idea terrifies you, you're definitely not alone. Therapists often shield themselves from learning what clients really think about therapy. In this video, I'll explain why it's worth getting past this resistance, and I'll also give you some tips for how you can ease into asking clients for feedback. So why is it so important to ask clients for feedback about how therapy is going? Despite being skilled communicators, therapists often miss signs that clients aren't progressing in therapy. And research backs this up. One study asked several dozen therapists at a university outpatient clinic to predict which of their clients were likely to worsen over the course of therapy. These therapists correctly predicted only one of the 40 clients who worsened. So let that stat sink in. The therapists identified only one of the 40 clients who worsened. That's a pretty abysmal result. The study also showed that most of these 40 clients could have been identified if the therapist had simply asked for feedback. So the takeaway here is that asking for feedback is vital for spotting clients who aren't doing well in therapy. But it's also important because it strengthens the therapeutic relationship. When you ask clients for feedback, you show that you care about their opinions. And this builds trust, which is crucial to therapy. It also helps you understand what's working well and not so well for clients. Now, if you're like most therapists, myself included, you struggle to ask for feedback. This is completely understandable. It can be truly scary to find out what clients are really thinking. This was definitely the case for 26 therapists in training at a university counseling center who were required to regularly ask their clients for feedback. And the goal for these therapists was to teach them the skill of adjusting their sessions based on how well their clients were doing. Now, at first, these therapists were terrified about asking their clients for feedback. One even said they had to fight the urge to run out of the room. Maybe you can relate to that. But an amazing transformation happened as the therapist got used to asking for feedback. What felt like pulling teeth at first became a valuable source of insight. And by the end of their experience, the therapists were actually enthusiastic about asking their clients for feedback. So what allowed these beginning therapists to overcome their initial resistance to asking for feedback? Well, it turns out the deciding factor was their ability to reframe negative feedback as an opportunity for insight and growth. At the beginning, the therapists took negative feedback very personally, viewing it as proof of failure or incompetency. But as they persisted, they noticed something that took them by surprise. Some of their most rewarding experiences were actually with clients who shared negative feedback. So instead of trying to protect themselves from client criticisms, the therapists realized they needed negative feedback to grow and develop their full potential. So this was obviously a huge mindset shift. And here's how one of those therapists put it. It isn't always easy to hear feedback from clients, especially when that feedback seems to be brutally honest. However, this type of feedback promotes the most growth for me, and I have come to appreciate it so much. Regularly checking in with clients also allowed these therapists to tailor sessions to clients' unique and changing needs. In this sense, client feedback served as a compass that kept therapy moving in the right direction. And by the end of the experience, the therapist couldn't imagine doing therapy without client feedback. So I was truly inspired by the journey made by these therapists. It made me feel like I can overcome my own resistance to asking for client feedback. And I'm hoping you're having a similar response. So let's talk about how you can implement this powerful technique. Let me give you a few simple guidelines. Ask questions about individual sessions and therapy overall. And here are two good options for questions focused on a single therapy session. First, what could I have done differently today to help you get the most out of our session? And another option, what did we not talk about today that we should address next time? Now, both of these questions invite clients to reflect on anything that was missed or that could be improved. All right, let's have a look at two great questions about therapy as a whole. How are you finding therapy overall? What's working well and what could be improved? And another good option, are there changes to my approach we should consider? Now, it's important to reserve these questions until the end of session. Otherwise, you might disrupt the flow of the conversation. And finally, don't ask too many questions at once so you don't overwhelm clients. I recommend limiting yourself to a question or two at a time. Let's talk now about how you can respond to the possible answers you may receive to your questions. Let me give you a few tips to guide you here. Thank clients for being honest. You know, therapists definitely aren't the only ones who struggle with feedback. It's also hard for clients to speak so openly about their experience. By reassuring them that you appreciate their criticisms, you're actually creating a safe space for their growth and healing. Another important tip, put negative feedback into perspective. Definitely don't be surprised when you cringe or panic after a client shares negative feedback. Remember, that's exactly what happened to those therapists I talked about. Just remind yourself that occasional criticism doesn't detract from your wonderful work. In fact, the most competent therapists are actually those who are willing to learn what clients are really thinking, rather than maintaining the fantasy that they're beyond improvement, which just isn't true, right? And finally, don't feel obligated to make major changes. Often, small tweaks can help clients feel you're taking their concerns seriously. For example, it might be enough to just slow down the sessions a bit, or to provide a little more structure. And sometimes there's no need for any changes. Often just talking about clients' concerns or offering an explanation can resolve the matter. So hopefully this video has inspired you to begin asking your clients for feedback. And remember, it's definitely okay to start small. Your first step could be to ask just one question at the end of your next session. This can definitely be uncomfortable at first, but it does get easier over time. Thanks for watching.